Hi, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. All I want to say today is that I want to give a shout out to Fred Upton, Peter Meyer, Nancy Mace, Adam Kitzinger, John Katko, Jamie Herrera Beutler, Anthony Gonzalez, Brian Fitzpatrick, and Liz Cheney for being the only Republicans to vote for Steve Bannon to be held in contempt of Congress for not answering a subpoena. I'm not happy with any political party right now, but at some point, people need to start governing. When Congress subpoenas a citizen, they need to show up. This is still a nation of laws. The idea that this guy isn't going to show up because he thinks he's bigger than the legislative branch is insane. Once he gets there, by all means, defend him if you think he's in the right. But he doesn't get to blow off showing up. I couldn't, you couldn't, this guy can't either. There ought to be more than 9 Republicans that feel this way. This cannot be the party of Gates, Boebert, Green, and Hawthorne, or this isn't a party that's going to bring any value to the nation. And by default, the Democratic Party will set all policy going forward. Serious problems require serious people, and we've seen far too little of them from the GOP as of late. I know this is short and to the point, but it needs to be said. And what else am I going to say about it? Prioritize the country over the party. Bring some pride back into the legislative branch and the governing body. If you can't even vote your conscience, or worse, if you have no conscience, get the hell out of office. Please. We need so much better than what we have right now.
There have been new updates in the search for Brian Laundrie, the ex-boyfriend of Gabby Petito, the girl whose remains were found in Wyoming. In the event you've been living under a rock, Brian Laundrie is wanted by authorities for killing Gabby Petito. The couple were living that van life and going on adventures in Wyoming. Laundrie returned early during their vacation without her and also got caught using her ATM card withdrawing money. Later, he walked off into the Florida Glades and disappeared. This week, the FBI has determined that they may have found Brian Laundrie's remains. Still, it raises questions. But first, the report. According to sources, authorities accompanied Brian Laundrie's parents on a search in the Florida Glades this Wednesday. Brian's father apparently went off on his own, discovered a backpack belonging to Brian, picked it up, and brought it to police. The police then found human skeletal remains not far from the bag. The parents identified a number of belongings that were clearly Brian's, and the report says that the clothing was consistent with something that Brian would be wearing. So the questions come up as all of this seems super convenient. Why were Brian's parents leading a search in the Florida park? Why did they choose to do it that day? Why did they find Brian's bag and Brian's bones when all of the authorities who apparently were filled in on this and where to look couldn't find this the whole time? Why is there a pile of bones? I'm not an archaeologist or a forensic scientist, but this seems really early to have a pile of bones. What about just a body? There was apparently a notebook sitting outside of the dry bag that the father found, but the notebook has yet to be opened. It's hard to say for sure if this truly is the body of Brian Laundrie. But one thing is for certain, O.J. Simpson definitely killed Nicole Brown Simpson. And Jeffrey Epstein definitely didn't kill himself.
We lost Colin Powell this week, an absolute legend of a man. Powell was a decorated Vietnam veteran, the first black national security advisor, the first and youngest chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, as well as the first black chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He presided over the Gulf War using what is now referred to as the Powell Doctrine, which simply says that you should employ all methods necessary to not go to war, but once you do, to use all means necessary and engage in total war with clear objectives. The Gulf War, I might add, was our last successful war. Critics have attacked him for his speech at the United Nations, arguing for entry into the Iraq War while he was the Secretary of State. Powell took the blame for that speech, telling the world publicly that it was a blot on his record. He's the only member of the administration to apologize for the Iraq War. Of note, Powell first argued against the war to President Bush, introducing the Pottery Barn rule, as he told the president, "If you break it, you will buy it." Powell noted it would plunge the Middle East into chaos and wreak havoc on oil prices and currencies. But before going to the UN, he grilled analysts for days, ensuring that their information was accurate. Only then did he present the case to the UN. When he realized he was wrong months later, he stepped down as Secretary of State, taking full responsibility for his actions, even though he did everything possible to get it right. The man devoted a lifetime of service to the nation. He is a personal hero of mine who tried to do everything the right way all the time and with character. The world would be a far better place with more men and women with one iota of Powell's character, and he will be sorely missed. Fair winds, sir.
One of the top stories circulating, and probably the most enraging, was that this week a woman was raped on a train in Philly while bystanders simply looked on. The victim, who remains anonymous, had apparently taken the wrong train and was attempting to get home. Her assailant followed her onto the train, persisted in trying to grab her, and then later raped her in front of a train car full of people. The assailant, according to reports, is an illegal Congolese immigrant with multiple sex abuse and drug convictions, who has been present in the U.S. since 2015 despite these charges. He also pleaded guilty to groping 2 women in 2017. As the report goes, onlookers simply stood by and did not call authorities until a Transport Authority employee saw what was happening and called the police. Transit police boarded and arrested the suspect, who is now being held in Delaware County Prison. The victim told authorities that she did not know her assailant, and then he followed her onto the train. Equally as enraging as the crime is the report of all the people standing by and watching it. I know there are plenty of people that would have no problem caving this guy's skull in at the moment that got out of hand. But in this day and age, we've reached the point where a train car full of people does not have a percentage, let alone a single person of that character on it, while a woman was being raped. There have been calls to prosecute everyone who viewed the crime and did not report it and did not step in. This has recently been refuted by prosecutors who say that no one has a legal obligation to intervene with a violent crime. They have been rigorously trying to refute reports that people were filming the crime as it happened, while in the same sentence reporting that people were recording the crime as it happened. Sure, one person may not have been able to step in and stop this man, but I guarantee you a train car full of people could. I'm just free associating here, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say these people have reached a point in their character and in their lives where they just want to feel safe behind their cell phones and in their keyboards and don't really have any substance outside of their jobs. I don't think I'm for prosecuting these people, but I'm definitely for posting their names and faces as a reminder that we need to be better people, and in the case of somebody in desperate need, be able to help them.
An In-N-Out Burger in San Francisco was shut down for refusing to follow San Francisco mandates requiring them to check customers for COVID-19 vaccination status. Originally, some Karen reported them for allowing customers who couldn't show proof of vaccination to still dine at the restaurant. They were then warned a number of times before finally being shut down. In-N-Out apparently maintained a go f*** yourself stance on this whole ordeal the entire time. Arnie Wessinger, the company's chief legal and business officer, made a statement this week that went as follows. We refuse to become the vaccination police for any government. It is unreasonable, invasive, and unsafe to force our restaurant associates to segregate customers into those who may be served and those who may not. We fiercely disagree with any government dictate that forces a private company to discriminate against customers who choose to patronize their business. This is clear governmental overreach, and this is intrusive, improper, and offensive. This has sparked a massive debate across the internet and social media platforms. In-N-Out has received tremendous support from those who support their stance, and many have pledged to simply get fat by giving In-N-Out their money. Those who oppose their stats say they'll never stop at an In-N-Out again. As of right now, the In-N-Out in San Francisco is once again operational. They're only serving customers outdoors, however. It's safe to say that this In-N-Out has really faced its ups and downs, both from the left and the right.
Gas prices are up across the country in force, but not according to Jen Psaki. This week, she was asked by a member of the press during a press conference whether or not the administration had any plans to combat the increase. She said she had no knowledge of any talks with any of the gas companies, and then went on to explain that in any situation, they will bring people together to think about stuff. She also noted that many people probably don't look at the situation through their prism, but they do. I'm not sure what that means, but I, for one, feel better. At least around here, gas prices have been rocketing up 20 cents or more in less than a week. Numerous reports from people in various states across the country confirm similar increases. It's safe to say that gas prices have gone up across the country. Psaki assured us that the price had gone up in some states, but not all states, which of course is not true, but I, for one, feel better hearing it.
Tragedy struck on the Hollywood set of the movie Rust in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Alec Baldwin reportedly shot and killed the director of photography and injured the director while using a prop gun during filming. The accident happened while a scene was either being filmed or rehearsed during which Baldwin discharged what was supposed to be a prop firearm with a blank. 42-year-old Halna Hutchins was killed, and the director, 48-year-old Joel Souza, sustained some injury, but his condition has not been disclosed. Production has been stopped for an undisclosed amount of time. The sheriff's department is investigating, but no one is likely to be charged. This incident is eerily reminiscent of 1993, where a similar accident resulted in the death of Bruce Lee's son, Brandon Lee. No statements have been made by the actors or production crew at this time. The rumor mill is that the armorer was not a Union armorer, and the gun used did not have a solid barrel as is typically used by Hollywood. Instead, while blanks were in fact used, there was nothing to stop the wad from exiting the barrel. At point-blank range, the wad can be just as lethal as a bullet. While the full details will come out soon enough, this is a tragedy all around, and I feel for those lost or wounded, and also for Mr. Baldwin, who is in crisis himself after inadvertently killing a close friend.
Netflix employees staged a walkout this week, protesting the release of Dave Chapelle's new special, The Closer. The reason for their walkout was for Netflix to acknowledge the damage that Chapelle's set had on trans and LGBTQ people, demand more trans people on the board members of Netflix, and of course, cancel Dave Chapelle. All this ire is stemmed from a number of jokes that Chapelle has made during his special about the trans and LGBTQ community, attacking him for making jokes about them in his past. If this protest proves anything, it's that Chapelle was dead nuts accurate. Comedy aside, Chapelle also delivered a candid bird's eye view of the entire situation. He stated that the alphabet community has made progress in getting rights and equality, the likes of which that makes the black community, he says, envious. He added that they accused him of punching down on the community, to which he stated, it was the opposite. With all that said, it's inescapably obvious that Dave Chapelle is and always has been a comedian. Comedians make jokes. Dave, in particular, makes jokes about everyone, of all races, religions, creeds, and demographics. The dude doesn't hate anyone except for one type of person: hypocrites. So maybe sit back and enjoy some comedy. If you try to ban comedy, comedy's gonna hit back. We're all sick of the offended shtick. You can absolutely have progress and comedy at the same time.
In recent Taliban news, a female volleyball player was reportedly beheaded by the Taliban. Only 2 of the female volleyball players on the national team managed to escape. The others are hiding or living elsewhere unreported. The Taliban are reportedly looking for women who were involved in sports to send a message that they shouldn't do that. It's well known that they think that women shouldn't be involved in anything besides being subservient to men. Many of the people that we were trying to help get out during the HKIA evacuation, and that we continue to try to get out now through Save Our Allies, have been in contact with us through WhatsApp and various other secure applications. Several of those people have been captured, and we have received messages from Taliban that basically show the folks that we've been trying to help be murdered. This is an ongoing thing that we adamantly are opposed to letting die. We are going to continue to report on what is happening in Afghanistan until we have removed every last person that tried to help the American military over the past 20 years gets to some measure of safety. Thank you very much.
The FDA has approved booster doses from Moderna and Johnson & Johnson as of Wednesday. They've authorized a mix and match approach regardless of the vaccine you got. This has raised questions, as originally it was suggested that you stick to the same booster as the vaccine you received. One medical source suggested that the reason for the mix and match is because that Johnson & Johnson's vaccine was believed to be ineffective, and they wanted the J&J people to receive a better vaccination. Right now, you can currently get the booster shot after 6 months, but there is currently no long-term schedule for how vaccinations should proceed, as you would, say, the flu shot. It's also recommended that you can also take just straight whiskey shots. See how that goes. If you've taken Moderna, you can have Modelo. If you've taken Johnson & Johnson, you're going to need a mixture of Jameson and Jim Beam. Pfizer gets straight Patron.
And finally, in Florida Man news, whoever said finger guns never hurt anyone has never been to Florida. According to authorities, 28-year-old Edward Rodriguez entered a Waffle House and announced that they were getting robbed. He shouted for everyone to get on the floor, promptly followed that up by yelling that he was high and drunk. He then held his finger guns high at the patrons, grabbed a bunch of napkins, and walked out. Witnesses say he had on a hoodie with dark jeans and he was toting a small dog. The witness descriptions and video surveillance allowed deputies to quickly locate Florida man at his home that was only 6 miles away. Upon getting arrested, Florida man admitted that he had just left his house to get some napkins. He is currently being charged with unarmed robbery and assault. I don't know if Florida man has learned anything from this incident, but I hope he does. And with that, I'm Nick Palmisano.
And I'm Matt Finney.
And this is the Bad News Network. Our news is at least as bad as the news you're getting already, and I hope you guys have a great weekend. As always, you can get 25% off at rangerup.com when you use the code BNN. And of course, you can check out Nick and Matt on OnlyFans, where we barely post anything.